There is one thing that holds every single person back that I have ever coached, that I have ever been friends with, that I've ever interviewed, that I've ever hired, that I've even had a casual conversation with. And that is the fear of what they will think, what someone is going to say as a result of whatever it is they might do, online or offline. And I'm included in this one. I always remind you guys of this story that it took me 10 years to start Project Me with Tiffany Carter. I had the intellectual property to do it. I had the money to do it. I had the training to do it. I had the balls to do it. Yet I was stuck with so much resistance of going for the thing, all being afraid of what the quote unquote they will think. And this is everything in this episode that I wish I could go back in time and teach and share and coach that Tiffany on, that would have made me start this so much sooner with little resistance and hesitation. What up, my people, my posse, my fellow crazies? It's your host, Tiffany Carter, and this is the show that is going to help you grow your business, your bank account, that big, beautiful brain of yours, your abundance, your relationships, and everything in between. Man, if I could take one fear away for people, it really would be this fear of judgment. It is so debilitating, and it holds people back from their dreams. It holds people in relationships that they don't want to be in anymore. It keeps people from living the lives that they want to live. It prevents people from doing anything truly that would bring them great fulfillment and great resolve and great abundance in their lives. And all the time and energy that is wasted chewing on, obsessing over what's so and so going to say? What's my husband going to think? What's my family going to think or say or do? What's my company going to do? People are going to think I'm crazy. And what is so interesting is the they that is being referred to, it's not about the strangers on the interwebs. It's about people that you know, people you've encountered. If there is anybody in your life, whether it's inner circle, outer circle, people you see regularly, that you are holding yourself back from doing something, from shining brighter, from putting your stuff outline, from writing the book to taking hot photos of yourself and sharing them, from you wanting to try your hand at some new sport, from you wanting to, I don't know, go audition for something, whatever the hell it may be. And you have people that have access to you that aren't in full support of you doing something that is going to make you feel good, that is going to make you shine, that has been on your heart, that would make you happy, that could lead you to having a fulfilling life where you're so excited and you are beaming with abundance. What the fuck? These are not your people. And if you're married to one, you're living with one, you're super close with one, I don't like it. It's not approved. This is not okay. Not happening. I understand that you'll have people, especially if we do like a hard left turn and you've been married for a while or you've had long-term friend groups and they're so used to you being one way and you've done a lot of inner work and personal development, or you've just had enough of being sick and tired and you're finally going to go for the damn thing and you start operating differently than you normally do. It's understandable why they're going to say some things like, what's going on? Like, who is this person? We don't know who this person is. This is a sharp turn. So we can have grace for that sudden turn, right? If it's not like a gradual change. And then it's up to you to communicate that with those people, and it's how they respond to it, right? Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going for it. I know it can seem like it's out of the blue and out of nowhere, and it might even seem sudden and extreme, but it's not. This has been on my heart for years. I've just not shared about it. I've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and now I'm going to go and do the thing. And I would really appreciate having the support from you. And this is what it looks like for me. This is what support would look like to me. And everyone's different, right? And give them an example. Some people want nothing said. Some people, support looks like, being open and willing to listen and cheer you on. Whatever that is, you have to tell these people what you need from them in order to feel supportive, and give them an opportunity to show up for you, this new version of you. And if they don't, and if they can't, and if they choose not to, yes, it is painful as hell, but then you have your answer. And there's going to be people who surprise you and delight you as well. And you have to allow that. And there's people right now that you're thinking about as we're having this conversation, and you're going, this is someone who's truly never been that supportive when I wanted to do things, whether it's a health journey, whether it's making more money, whether it's a passion project of mine, whether it is a vision that I want to, own a lake house somewhere, a beach house somewhere. I want to travel somewhere, and they always have something to say about it. This is someone who loses their privileges to knowing what the hell that you're doing. They are now on a need to know basis, and therefore they don't need to know. One of my rules that I implemented that has greatly helped me is I say less and do more. I don't go running around and telling all the people what things I'm working on and what projects I'm doing. That's all talk, and it can even trick me into believing I'm doing something, and all I'm doing is talking about it. So it helps keep me accountable by not doing that. But also, I don't want to hear what people have to say back. And I learned this when I started telling people about the podcast early on, that I'm starting a podcast. That's what I'm working on, because I was excited and I wanted to tell people about it. And it was not met well by people. I sounded insane. And there were a lot of podcasts in 2018 when I started. In fact, funny enough, I thought the industry was really, really saturated, because that's what a lot of people said back to me in 2018. Oh, everyone has a podcast. It's like, oh, okay. No one makes money podcasting. Why do you want to do something like that? That sounds like a lot of work. Well, you don't have any social media following. How are even people going to find this? Like, all sorts of crap was said to my face and behind my back. And then I learned, you know what? It's better not to tell anyone, or only highly, highly vetted people get to know what's happening. So I need you to close that circle on who is on a need to know basis. And that doesn't mean that this person isn't a nice person. That doesn't mean you don't love them. They have lost their privileges of knowing what the hell is going on in your life, because they can't keep their trap shut, and they clearly are not capable of being supportive. This is called a boundary, and not all boundaries do people need to have those verbalized to them. Okay. Some boundaries, of course, yes, we need to have that a verbal discussion and it be verbally set. But there's a lot of boundaries that you don't have to say anything about. When someone loses their privileges, for me to refer people to them, for me to shout them out, for them to be invited to things, for them to have access to me, for them to know information about my life personally or professionally, I don't make an announcement. I don't have a coffee chat with them and let them know. They usually figure it out, because they're not getting that space from me. And guess what? A lot of people don't like it. And part of you, of why you have not tightened the reins on your circle with your stuff, is because you're afraid of the reaction from these people because you've experienced it before. You've seen it before. They've been nasty. They've gaslit you. They've stonewalled you, meaning like they've ignored you, like you didn't exist, which is a form of emotional abuse. They've talked shit about you behind your back. They've made like microaggression type comments, like slide comments, sarcastic comments. You've seen them do things or talk shit about other people. That's why you're afraid of what they will think, what they will say, what they will do, is because they've exhibited this behavior before towards you or other people. I'm sure there's at least one person in your life you can think of that you aren't afraid to tell stuff to. And it might be a coach, it might be a therapist, you could be blessed, and it could be a friend or your partner. And I want to say this, it's also okay if it's no one. And I need to say this because I remember when I would listen to podcast episodes or I would even be watching reality TV, and it would feel like everyone has this whole amazing friend group and everyone's cheerleader and so supportive and so genuine and so trustworthy, and they have all these people, and it made me feel like a piece of shit because I didn't have that. I maybe would have one person, and I'm talking like someone I didn't pay. Maybe one person. There were times when I had nobody, and it made me feel like it was a reflection on me. What am I not good enough, or something wrong with me that I don't have these friend groups? Let me tell you something. You see people with these big friend groups. I promise you, I coach so many people. I would say 100% of them, there's only like one or two people in those friend groups where they share stuff. The rest of the people, they don't share anything with, they don't feel safe with, or some of them know nothing. There are going to be times in your life, especially when you're upgrading and up leveling your life, your business, where it's going to feel very lonely, and you're going to wonder, where are my people? Why don't I get to have these people? And it's really uncomfortable. And I promise you, they'll come in, but you going back to the toxic and settling for less, you can't do that because the abundant people will not come in because you're all tangled up with the toxic people, with the people you've outgrown. They might not even be toxic. You're just not on the same frequency, and they're dragging you down innocently. There is someone who I know from back in high school who is a lovely, lovely human. And this person continuously will send me political memes and wants to like, bond on that stuff, which that really doesn't do it for me. And this person loves talking about getting like free hotel rooms in Las Vegas. Like this is their highlight truly of their life. And I'm trying to say this without any sarcasm or judgment myself because it sounds so bizarre to me that that is like the most exciting thing going on in their life, and they're genuinely excited. And it just shows me how much of a different timeline we're on. That's not good to be hanging around or having someone like that have too much access in your life. It's not about, you're not being a bad person. It's going to drag you down into a scarcity mentality with the other people who are using language and they're just looking for a free room. They're complaining about their taxes. They can't wait for their tax return to come. They talk about how expensive gas is and groceries are, and they're on this loop. That is only going to keep you stagnant in that loop. So you have got to change your access points, and it can feel like you're kind of being a bitch or you're kind of being a dick. maybe even that you're being snobby or elitist. Some people have said about me, oh, well, now that she's rich, it's like, no, it's called now that I've grown, right? Like the I've grown. The people who I would hang out with in my 20s, I'm not going to hang out with now. I've grown. And if the people have grown with me, that's fine. But if you haven't, I'm not going to keep hanging on just to have people around me and be held back. And a lot of you are continuing to hold on to people where their expiration date has passed because you feel like that makes you the bad guy or you're abandoning people. But who you're ultimately abandoning is yourself. You're holding yourself back in order to make sure they feel okay and they feel loved. Well, what about you? There's a reason I named this brand ProjectME. You are the most exceptional project of your life, and you're responsible for it. Nobody else. The buck stops with you. And I wanted to make that really clear about being that careful in the curation process of who has access to you on any different level and being okay with being alone temporarily or with fewer people in your life. You know what? That's not saying something bad about you. You know what that says to me? You've got high standards. Someone who's always going on dates all the time, constantly, versus someone who's not, I don't think that that one person, they must be a better person. They must be more attractive. They must be more engaging because they have dates all the time. They probably don't have great boundaries or standards. I have the same feeling about people who are like, oh, I have 25 clients at a time and I have this and that. It's like, wow, you're taking all of it. You're taking it all. You don't have a filtration process. What's your filtration process? And if you don't have one, I need you to start one because I would rather have a handful of people in my life. And by handful, I'm talking 3 to 5. I'm not joking. And maybe it's only 2 of the 5 who actually know what the fuck I have going on at any given time in detail. And those are truly my safe people, aside from my coaches and my therapist and my higher power. And that is enough for me. And that has changed my life doing that because now I've created a situation where it's only people who are cheering me on. It's only people who are lifting me up. And this is not just verbally, energetically, I can tell. There's a lot of people who will give you some verbal bullshit, but energetically, you can feel that they're low key, like jealous of you, judging you, nonverbal cues that don't match their words. Your words and actions don't match, you're out. Period. I am unavailable and unbothered for all of this. And I need you to get to that point. And how you get to that point is truly developing a relationship with yourself where you love your own company. And even though it's not always ideal, and even though you get lonely at times, you'll chill with yourself and even be a little bored and a little lonely because you don't settle for anything other than the best. Another amazing thing that I did that helped me tremendously stop fixating, especially coming on like social media and on video and on the podcasts and what are people going to think when I do this? And what are people going to say when I do this? And is this person going to be offended? And is that, I don't want to upset this person. And what if this person doesn't get results and all this craziness that goes on? Am I qualified or enough? Who am I to be doing this? I'm even exhausted saying it because I wasted literally 10 years. Truly. I can't even tell you. Of that 10 years, I probably wasted 5 really wrestling with this thing. What a freaking waste. And I'm hoping that my story helps jolt you out of whatever you've been resisting going all in on. When you work on stopping your own self judgment, you will end up not being as fixated on thinking others are judging you or going to judge you because you're not fucking judging yourself anymore. And this is something within your control. There is a direct relationship between how much you're judging yourself and how harshly to how much you think others are judging you or what others are going to do as a result of some action that you've taken. So the key here is practicing self-compassion. When that judgment comes up, who are you to be doing this? It's so nasty, that inner bully. You have to reframe all of this. You have to talk to yourself like I hope you talk to the people that you love in your life. And then you're not going to think that people outside of you are going to be that harsh because you're not that harsh on yourself. And I'm going to even go a layer further. Typically, people who are heavily self judging also naturally are judging the fuck out of others. I'm not saying you're necessarily doing it verbally or even doing it where the other person knows, but you're like scrolling and judging, and I can tell you that I have had a lot of struggles when it comes to my body dysmorphia, the exercise addiction, and I've been one of those people where it's like, oh, well, they're probably starving themselves to look like that. Oh, they're probably doing this. Like they're probably miserable. And I don't even fucking know these people. And there's been people close to me who I was judging, and maybe they felt it, maybe they didn't, because it was something that I wanted so badly, and it seemed like I couldn't have it. And I was also in so much self judgment around my own body and how I looked. So, of course, I'm going to project that on other people, even if it's done in a more clever, less offensive way. This is a real honest conversation. You got to look at yourself. Where am I doing that? I'm judging others who seem to have the success that I want in their business, or seem to have this relationship that I want, or seem to be able to make all this money while not killing themselves for it. I know what people say about me because I also have seen it said, I've heard it said, I've felt it, where people make all sorts of stuff up about me. And I get it. It's because you want it and you don't think you can have it. And so therefore there has to be a story made up about the damn thing, versus if it's possible for her, it's possible for me. So that's how I was able to get into self-compassion, is when someone had something I wanted, I would go, if it's possible for this person, it's possible for me. I started looking at the good in it. Wow, look how romantic that couple is together. You know what? I really want that in my life. I'm going to call that into my life, instead of me going, oh, look at them all over each other in a restaurant. I'm sure that they're just having a good night. Like no one is that lovey-dovey all the time, or some, bullshit thing that I used to say. You have to change how you're wording it to yourself. When you're being nasty to yourself, I don't come across confident. I go on and on when I talk. I'm not clear when I talk. I don't sound confident online. I don't think that I could do this, that, or the other. Whatever nastiness that you have that's being said, what is a more self-compassionate way to say it? And when you catch yourself judging, whether it's yourself or someone else, I did this. I would go, there's judgy Judy, and I made it like a funny thing, instead of going, stop judging yourself, like judging myself or judging myself. Be like, oh, there's judgy Judy. We aren't doing that anymore. But thank you. Thank you for being part of the show. But we are no longer casting this character, judgy Judy. Instead, we are going to look at things in a different way. And this can work very quickly. It softens you. And then you don't start having this obsession with what all these other people are going to think because you're no longer thinking that way. This one is really great. This one works so well. I teach it to all of my clients. It's taking the edge off and the pressure off from the thing that you're doing. And again, this is for business. This is for your personal life. I call everything an experiment. I'm just doing an experiment. I'll say it to other people because some people mean really well. They're concerned. I'm concerned you're leaving your steady corporate job to do something like this. I'm concerned you're making that investment. There's a lot of scammers out there. I'm concerned that you're going to, affect your privacy by you showing up online. What will so and so think? Blah, 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 blah. I'm afraid this is going to affect your marriage. I'm just experimenting. This is something that I've been pulled and called to do. And I'm experimenting to see if this is something that delights me and fulfills me and expands my life. And if the person on the other end does not respond well to that, by well meaning that's great. I totally get that. I'm just being protective. I love you. I support you. If it's anything other than that, they just lost their privilege card. They've lost access to you. Their VIP card is gone. Because that's all we're really doing here is experimenting. I experimented with this podcast. Let's see how it goes. See how it feels. See if it's a vibe. Not see if it works, but see if I enjoy it. You get to stop anything you want at any time, and it takes the edge out of it. It takes all the pressure, because when you put all this pressure on yourself, that's when Judgy Judge Judy comes in really loud, because you're creating your own resistance and it gets really messy that way. You're experimenting with a new launch. You're experimenting with going all in on something that you've been toe dipping on. And with that being said, I am about to close out any of my 2-month private business coaching spots for all of 2024. You will not be able to work with me privately until sometime in 2025. So the applications are still open to do this, but I'm about to close those. So I want to make it very clear, if you're wanting to work with me at my highest level access point, and you're wanting to have everything customized on my emotional based sales techniques, how you are going to monetize your gifts, passions, and talents online, whether you're starting from scratch or you have an established business that you want to scale to the high 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, it all uses the same application for simplicity. And all you have to do is swipe up. It's right inside the show notes, right here on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. If you are watching over here on ProjectME TV on YouTube, it's in the description. Please do not apply unless you're 100% dead ass serious about going all in, because it wastes other people's time who are applying. These spots fill up very quickly, and that's why I'm giving warning to you. Now, if you want to make sure that you don't miss out on a couple things that we have coming out that are launching, that are long awaited, and you want to have the first dibs, plus you want to be able to read pieces of my journal entries over the course of all of this time growing my business, where I also share unique manifestation exercises, things that have worked for me, stories, more personal stuff. You want to be on my free secret weekly posse digest. And you can get on that by, again, going inside the show notes in the description on YouTube, or go to projectmewithtiffany.com/secret posse. I highly recommend being on that because you will be shooketh with what we have coming out this holiday season for you. 73% of people say that they have extreme anxiety when it comes to public speaking, whether it's online or offline. And in fact, this is the nuance that I found so interesting when researching for this episode. The smaller the crowd, the amount of anxiety increased. The bigger the crowd, there was a decrease in anxiety. And this goes right with what I've seen in my coaching business with thousands and thousands of people. And I'm going to be calling some of you out right now, where you will go and speak your mind and do stuff over on, for example, TikTok, because you know that your family is not on it, or you know that people that you used to work with or went to school with are not on it. But then your Facebook account, you don't do any of that stuff, or your Instagram, you don't do any of that stuff, or you'll even have a separate account that they don't know about. I even know people who have secret podcasts where they don't even have their name out there because they really want their story heard, but they're so terrified of what people are going to think and say that they have anonymous podcasts. And I don't think that's a bad idea for you to get into action and start doing something if you have to do something anonymously. Now, is that really great for business? No, not in terms of monetizing. But if there is something that you really want to do and you want your voice heard, do an anonymous blog, do an anonymous podcast to start, so that at least you're practicing getting your voice out there. And then you can always turn that anonymous thing into a known thing at some point, but at least you're doing the damn thing. I want you to take these types of steps, these breadcrumbing steps, in order to get to the zero fucks given zone. A lot of you are looking at, well, I just want to rip off the Band-Aid. It's an all or nothing thing. I just have to wait until I don't care. I have to wait until I feel confident enough, until I don't care what they think. This will never happen. This is a lie that your brain is telling you. This is not going to work. You have got to start breadcrumbing in your actions. And in those actions, you will start caring less and less and less and giving fewer and fewer fucks as you're taking those actions. But waiting to take the action until you feel a certain type of way, or until you don't feel a certain type of way, ain't gonna work. Hence my 10 years. I finally got to a point of, wow, when I realized it was 10 years, I was embarrassed for myself. I was mad at myself. I was disappointed in myself. And I went, holy crap. I never once got the feeling that I'm ready. I never once got the feeling that it's time. I never once had some magical giant sign. And I went, well, are we going to waste another 10 years? Are we going to waste another 5? What are we going to do, Tiff? And it's like, no, we got to do it. That's what I mean by you got to do it. There is no fun way to get into an icy cold pool. There is absolutely no exciting way. You can do it the slow way. You can go in one step at a time and then get up to your waist in that cold water and scream about it, and then eventually dunk yourself. You can do it that way, or you can jump in. Both ways are fine as long as you're doing the damn thing. But you sitting on the edge of that icy cold pool, looking in and waiting to get up the guts to go in that water, you're not going to do it because you're so focused on the fear that creates more fear, and that creates more self-judgment. And then you are stuck in the vortex of all of this gook. And before you know it, 1 year's gone by, 5, 10, 15, 20. And I can't tell you how many of you end up in my ProjectME Posse business coaching membership. You end up in my programs. I should have started years ago, but at least I'm starting now. I'm finally doing it. Thank God I heard your podcast because it made me get out of my own way and do it. And that delights me when I hear that from you guys. I have no judgment towards you. I've done it. And that's why you don't feel judged about that I'm judging you because I've done it. Like I can't judge you. I totally fucking get it. And this is a safe space for you to come in. We're about to close new members for my Project Me Posse business and money coaching membership. So if this has been on your heart to join, I would absolutely join now. You can go to projectmewithtiffany.com/Project Me Posse and make sure that you don't procrastinate on doing that because we are closing to new members until the holiday season. So I don't want to see you miss out because we're doing right now this really incredible series, which could be a complete self-sustaining multi-$1,000 course by itself on doubling your sales in the next 90 days. And we've had part 1, part 2, and part 3. Those are, of course, available for you to binge. And then we are going to be doing part 4 coming up, and it's literally taking you through step by step exactly what you need to do in a simple and straightforward way to get those sales cranking during the season. It's all here for you. You have access points to work with me at all different levels. So you can't say you don't know what you're doing. You can't say any of that anymore. And truly, aren't you tired of saying all these other things of, what are they going to think? People are going to think I'm stupid. I don't know if I'm well qualified enough for this. Do you really want that to be your legacy? Do you really want to waste your precious time on earth being so concerned about other people who are the ones who aren't supportive of you? Hells no. The final thing that I do to manage this whole fear of being judged when I start going to bigger levels, when I start sharing more things in a super open and vulnerable way, is I will question any extreme thoughts. Oh, no one's going to buy this. Oh, people are going to absolutely be mad at me for this. I don't want to get canceled for this. When we're in fear, we say things that are insane, right? Like we speak in extremes. No one's going to do this. People are going to think I'm an idiot. No one's going to even want to listen to me. Who in the hell would buy from me? Any extreme thoughts, I need you to go, okay, well, is that really true? Or is that my fear talking? Is that my anxiety talking? Is that my self-judgment talking? Because this sounds like a pretty intense statement. And when you really take a look at most of the stuff that you say in your head, that you vent out loud, most of it doesn't equate. That does not add up. The math does not math. It doesn't even make sense. And that's when you know it's coming from a fear-based thought. It's coming from like a low vibrating, icky thought when it's something that doesn't feel good in your body and it doesn't make sense and it deserves to be questioned. Wouldn't you question it if a 10-year-old came up to you and was so upset and no one likes me at school and I'll never have any friends? Or would you go, that's probably true, or just say nothing and ignore them? I would like to think you would say, well, what's going on? What's making you feel this way? And talking through it and saying, it's literally impossible in a world of billions of people that you would never have any friends. Sometimes we have to wait for the right friends for us. Sometimes we're in between friends. And that doesn't mean they aren't coming. We're just waiting for the right ones to come, the best ones, the most fun, the ones that feel the best to be around. I need you to start talking to yourself like that. Otherwise, you're going to stay in this spot. And when all else fails, block these people. Oh, I can't block people. What is my mother going to think? What's my dad going to think? Oh, my auntie will know that she got blocked and then I'll never hear the end of it. Well, they lost privileges. They wouldn't have gotten blocked if they weren't judgy Miss Judy. If they were supportive and they were a cheerleader and they were here for your greatest, highest good of abundance and happiness, you wouldn't feel the need to block them. So they lose privileges. Be willing to have people lose privileges for not being supportive of what you're doing in your life. I mean, going after big things is going to look crazy to some people who have maintained a small life because they were too afraid to do big things. So they project their own fears onto you or their own jealousy onto you. That's about them. That's not on you. But continuing to people please in order to have this perception that you're not going to be abandoned, that you're going to be able to keep the peace, that you're going to stay safe, you're not. You're not, because you're the one paying the price. The only person who is getting pleased by people pleasing is the other person. You're left in a displeased state. And that has to be no longer acceptable to you. None of this. This is not allowed. And keep saying that. I am not doing this. This is not allowed. And I want you to make a list. Who does not have privileges? Maybe it's easier for you to put who does have privileges. And it might just be one person for now. And that's okay, because that will signal to the universe, to God, that, okay, this type of person gets privileges. And then you're saying, I want more of these people in my life. And then you will manifest it. But if you keep holding on to some shit and settling for that, how would you ever be able to call in the people who you truly want in your life? It doesn't work. These are all things that I wish I was told this bluntly. Now it's 16 years ago. I wish I had someone tell me this. I didn't know any of this. And that's part of why I have a show and why I share it with you, because I would have started this much sooner. If someone said to me, Tiffany, just start, and the confidence will come by starting. It's just an experiment. You can quit at any time. You're fine. And even if you feel like you have to start anonymously and then change it later, at least start, at least get your voice out there, at least get your feet wet and start doing the thing, and pour all of that time and energy into creating your most exceptional life, instead of pouring your time and energy trying to protect and manage other people around you. I mean, you can see when you play that out, how that ends up working out for you. And yes, as you continue to grow and expand, the circle gets tighter and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. It just does. Ask any celebrity, ask any multimillionaire, billionaire. But let me tell you something. My life is so happy, even though it's small, because I know who is clutch, right? Those people, that one person is equivalent to having like 6 people. You know what I'm saying? Because there's such a gem. I would rather have one big, fat, flawless Tiffany diamond than 27 diamonds that have flaws, that are kind of janks, but they like look okay. I'd rather have one pristine thing, wouldn't you? That would feel much more special and abundant to me. So it's just looking at things in a different way. What other fears do you want me to cover? Reply to any of my emails if you're on my Secret Posse Weekly Digest. So you can access that and join it inside my show notes in the description here on ProjectME TV on YouTube, or you can DM me on Instagram or TikTok at ProjectME with Tiffany. Let me know topic suggestions, what other fears you want me to cover. And I am more than happy to do so, as I do the show for all of you. And remember, I'm about to close the applications for 2024 for my exclusive 2-month private business coaching program. This is open to people starting from scratch to highly established entrepreneurs who are looking to scale in the 7 and 8 figures. I use the same application because we get to have things be simple here and straightforward. We don't need to complicate matters because you make things complicated, you lose customers. And you can access everything in the show notes, in the description on YouTube. I love you guys so much. And thank you for being here for this incredible ride, supporting me. Those of you have been so supportive along the way. It goes really, really far, especially on those weeks and those months where you get kind of knocked around a little bit. I notice, right? We can't always like reply to every person, but I read a majority of them. And I want you to know that I am looking at all of those written Apple Podcast reviews, the replies to the emails, the shout outs of the show, when you're sharing social media content and tagging me, when you're taking a screenshot of the show and sharing it, when you're, I, I see a majority of them and it means a lot to me and I'm humbled by it. And I love you all so much. Wishing you great health, wealth, and worth as always. Love you.